I'm old. Give me a break. Okay, some of you might have been there last year, but last year I hosted a panel in this very room with some of these same people about the future of PC gaming. What type of technology would be driving PC gaming in the future? And I was thinking for a follow-up this year, it would be really good to kind of figure out what gaming hardware is. Because if you believe the ads, you believe the things you see in print magazines or on splash pages on websites, gaming technology just means there's more RGBs on it. It's got all the colors in the world, and that makes it gaming, and we can bump up the price by $100. But that's obviously not true. So to my left, I have some people who actually design and know far more about gaming, designing gaming technology and what actually it is. So they might be able to guide us through what it means. So I'll get them to introduce themselves, and then we'll kick it off.
Sure. Given that I'm in the pole position right here. I'm Joe Olmsted. I'm the director for Alienware and Dell Gaming worldwide. So all products with an Alienware badge comes through my team. And we do design all the hardware. And we had the RGBs first.
That's right.
And in Australia, it's more than 100 because we gold plate them too.
I'm right behind you, Joe.
How you guys doing? I'm Lenard, Swain, and I work at Alienware as well, and I lead our community teams, our global community organization. So things like Alienware Arena, our community site, our Alienware TV, our Twitch channel, YouTube, social media, and Reddit, Discord, anything that involves Alienware directly reaching out to gamers. Myself and my team lead those.
And my name is Vince LaDuca. I'm the global product manager for Linksys Corporation, responsible for the WRT line. I think it's one of the longest running CE brands that's been out there for at least 15 years.
I'm Matthew Lutz. I work in Intel's gaming, esports, and VR group. I'm responsible for technical marketing, which is supporting all of our hardware and software partners with their gaming line of products, as well as supporting our country teams all over the world, like in Australia, on delivering great gaming experiences and for you guys.
So I should have said I'm Daniel Wilkes. I'm the editor of PC PowerPlay. So just to start off and to keep things nice and general and broad and simple, I might get my panelists to actually define what they think a gaming product is. Just in a general way, what defines a gaming product from a mainstream product, just to get a general idea of the markets for the two.
RGBs.
As many antennas as you could put on a product.
So we define it, and I've been with the Alienware brand now for 13 years, and everything we do in our product, we don't try to be different than a mainstream product, but all the little touch points that you have as an individual, we want to be gaming focused. So we use different networking cards, we use different audio chips. Our ports are laid out in a way that you don't have an HDMI port just smack dab where you'd want to hold your mouse. We don't have 8 or 9 or 10-inch touch pads because you're not really using the touchpad unless you're in Word or Chrome. So we don't focus on all the chasing some of these mainstream touch points because we know you don't want something in the way of your mouse, or you don't want that big honking power cord to be somehow interfering with what you're at. So that's kind of how we focus. It's not necessarily what's inside, because we can all make something with a 1060 and an i7, but it's all the other things that we focus on when we think of gaming versus mainstream. And we put on a lot of RGBs.
Yeah, for me, I've been at Alienware at Dell for 17 years and Alienware for 11 years now, and it's really about the passion we have for gamers and the immersion in gaming, right? We know that people play games, right? And they buy games. They don't necessarily buy the hardware. They buy the hardware to play the games. So whatever we can do from a hardware standpoint that allows you to get into the game quicker and have a premium experience from whether it's a frame rate standpoint or being able to turn on all the bells and whistles, that's really what we look for within Alienware design.
For us over at Linksys, what we call it, a gaming router versus a normal consumer-based router is, again, with the importance of online in the consumer sense, where it's more, that's when we set out to do a gaming router. We want to make sure that online gameplay is the top priority, no matter what's going on in that home, because, what we found out in research, when it's time to go online and go do your online gameplay, typical in the past, you had to run around and tell everybody to get the hell off the network.
Right.
And now, with the technology that we're putting forth in our gaming router, it's all about online gameplay as number one.
I think for us it comes down to making the experience as good as possible for you. Difference in
Seems to be there's the convenience speed factor that's extra stuff that isn't needed or to bring up all the bells and whistles with, say, a mainstream new laptop or a new small form factor piece. It's where in the market you want it to go, you think we can find a market for, or is it in designing a new product?
So the first what we're going to do in 2019 and 2020, besides just a first-person shooter you're going to be doing, and what those requirements need, what kind of networking be. We work with Intel, we work with killer networks for all of our Alienware, and then we figure out what it's going to look like. Have HTC and Oculus to figure out 2020 more so than there are only so many ports on the back, and do we play ports, and then you have to move to HDMI, and so we spend 9 months to probably a year just trying to figure out, and then we try to make an 80-watt 17-inch notebook, although so then we try to do that on SLI or 4SLI or they can be, and then figuring out how to make it.
So, how important is is there something that
yeah, they have a very, very distinct look. We want a product that everyone makes not that there's anything wrong with that, but our community as I do from anyone else, to be a departure from this, meet with several focus groups and several.
Yeah, and is a really important thing, and there are some. It's really more of just making sure. For us, it's more of what's under the hood. Dude, more stealth look with the new some of the killer networking technology on there, which is good. So for the hood as well. So I think it's he's on this one.
when it comes to things like modems and routers, you should essentially forget you have them working, and like you go and
Never
have
happens.
to reset it. If you look at from the ASUS one. Where do you kind of draw the line, a gaming brandish, rather than
without you having to worry about it? They just want it to work, and they want it to make on top of anything, and that's when we the aesthetics are really more. They can the gamers like you guys out there, how it's becoming such more of a competitive. They don't want to be messing with the network, just have and the kind of the connection that we're automatically. I mean, you hook up our router, it, and it automatically is handling all of it.
the laptops? The line when it comes to you draw the line. What Outlook is going. Yeah, Austin.
Watching this, I apologize in advance for them to be from others, and people who will love it, and some people who will think it's not. And so, who don't love what it looks, but they all absolutely identifiable with our brand. Again, some people love it, some people old or whatever it is, but like things very, very different. I can't make an Alienware system for But yeah, and that tends, and yes, and they do.
Say like the right and things like that. Yeah, is there more big development step?
So Intel just launched the Coffee Lake, their 7th. We were in Australia the same day. Intel desktop product, put it in our current, especially with desktop graphics. Notice before we realized 2 months notice, but it's not whatever we're doing. But so when NVIDIA came out, works around that because just from a development, will change the mechanics, especially when thermals change.
Like your
Yeah, NVIDIA recently announced that about with these sub.
So when a new flow-on effect with the new design, is it something that's figured out?
The chipset guys, components to find out, where the 802.11 AC technology comes out. You saw of where all the clients, the ones that usually have to step out there first and kind of lead. But I think what's more, if we're making a gaming router, chipset that's coming out, but it's more about, we can products to see how and perform. Wait till we know that there's mature.
It sounds like you've got a bit of play for a lot. Does that give you more
On that burden of educating Corner, which is the newest killer and a puzzle, but we try to make sure we're staying ahead.
There's live streaming now and all those kinds of stuff.
Last year we talked about venue and new USB connectivity.
Can have Chrome, but yet you never play off of a battery of 180 watts. For someone like me flying a killer to get down here from Texas, what I'll do is shut the outlet off. Certainly less so our battery life. Our next generation of notebooks we're trying to want and expect. Screen on our 13-inch notebook is the OLED. We have it in our, and ironically we get dinged on it. So to me, the hardest part about these new technologies, you can't really handle it, or you get dizzy and you fall down, and I mean it's immediately noticeable.
Yeah,
so
you can
I think we've all struggled with that. Even me running VR at my house, I put my daughter in VR and she loved it. And then the second the frames got a little skippy, man, she was not happy. And she didn't throw up, but it wasn't a great day.
It's like you can write out dips in your FPS when you're playing Overwatch or Counter-Strike, but when you're playing a VR game and you're stuck in there and suddenly it'll dip, your world will kind of go for a spin.
And I think that's absolutely something we're all struggling with in the hardware industry now around VR is everyone wants a great VR experience. It's a very high-end PC that you need to do it. And then not everyone can afford watching a movie in VR is hard. And you're right, the ports are easy, but if we can't supply a steady stream of frame rates, it gets bad, and it gets bad quick. For those of us who have seen it.
It's interesting how it's like a full system workload. You need the good CPU, the good GPU, the good all the latency everywhere, and it kind of the whole system goes into delivering that experience. And so we're all working together to figure out the best way to do that for you guys.
So do you think a solution to that is the approach that Microsoft has taken with the mixed reality headset? So there's actually a baseline technology that every vendor that does one has to hit. Do you think that'll solve this kind of problem of a minimum requirement, or is it just
I think they'll
catch-all?
I think there'll always be. We'll always strive to have better experiences. We do it in regular gaming now. The graphics continue to get better, and the sort of gameplay gets better, and I think we'll demand that from the VR developers as well. Microsoft set their min specs, so there'll be things that you can do with a WinMR headset at the low end with a U-series notebook or something. do Excel in VR or have like screens all around you and be able to have that multi-monitor setup you always wanted. But then when you go to a AAA title, you're going to need that high-end gaming hardware that's designed to deliver that experience.
Yeah, I think it was Microsoft being smart and looking at an opportunity, right? VR, if you haven't experienced VR, definitely while you guys are at the show, experience it. There's VR everywhere. We have it in the Alienware stand. But if you haven't experienced VR, it is truly immersive. It is a truly great experience. And as has been mentioned on this panel, that experience right now from an Oculus or from an HTC is quite an investment, right? So the opportunity is how do we get VR to gamers in a quicker, lower price point fashion, right? And Microsoft saw that opportunity. We have a Dell HMD visor that supports kind of the Microsoft VR initiative, provide games to the community and all of that as an opportunity. But at the end of the day, it's Microsoft taking advantage of an opportunity for a gaming technology and a gaming interaction that is quite an awesome experience, right? So in my role specifically, and I kind of tie that into community, a lot of what we do from a in-house design standpoint, future opportunities for Joe and his team to look at, product development and things like that comes directly from the community, right? Us just not being at events. Events is a great opportunity to kind of get the local feedback, but we're online 24/7 listening to gamers, whether it's Alienware Arena, which is our community site. We're constantly getting pinged on Twitter, Facebook, Discord. We have a Discord community, an Alienware subreddit. We're constantly hearing from the community about how they like our products, how they use our products, and all that information gets fed back into the design process.
So, with the community aspect, when designing, is the community the first kind of port of call for anyone when you're looking at, like, this is the product niche we need to fill, or this is the kind of spec that people are looking for? Or do you look outside what could be considered, essentially an echo chamber?
So the gaming audience certainly does not lack in providing feedback.
Not at all.
And I would say a few years ago, probably 5 years ago, we weren't listening. And we had an event after launch, and we handled it very poorly, frankly. We were telling people online that we had a manufacturing excursion, which is another word for the factory did something wrong, but the product wasn't broken. And we didn't listen to the community, and we really suffered for it, and it really caused us to rethink everything we do. So now, Lenard and his team has been involved in every part of our defining of new products since 2014?
Yep.
2014. And we make certain that the mistakes we've made with the community in the past, we have very specific, testing now to make certain we don't repeat those very specific things. Because again, the worst thing I think we can do is to make the same mistake twice, because you, as a gaming audience, will remind us that we have made that mistake twice, and it's always quite embarrassing. I know when I speak to my leadership that, we did that again. So the community, for us at least, it's the most valuable tool that we have, and it may not seem like we listen because the outcome may not match what someone said, but we are listening nonetheless.
And then for us, when Linksys was acquired by Belkin, and that was one of the things that we saw that Cisco didn't do very well with those Linksys customers, is really listen. And so, and Belkin, as a parent of Linksys now, really pays attention to people and how they use products. And so we were able, and I'm afforded an amazing user experience team that was carved out of the Belkin team to really listen to the community and find out what are those needs, and making sure that we're paying attention to those needs and wants of the online gaming community, because it being so important nowadays. So that's, it's all about UX and research for us, even, before even the single line of code is written, even single PCB is gerbered out. We're paying attention to what's going on out there and listening to figure out where those pain points are. And again, you guys should certainly let us know.
So, how do you come back from a mistake? Like, how do you, like when you cock up and the community lets you know, how do you, come back from that? How do you deal with it?
I think 5 years ago, we would have just ignored it, but now we actually admit it.
Yeah.
And we apologize.
And it's all about constant feedback, right? Acknowledging that you hear the concern, and providing information back on a very routine basis. And the fact that, it's the internet. We're out there, my team, we're all personalities. We put our names out there. We are known Alienware employees. So if we go into a gaming forum, if we're on Reddit, if we're in Discord, like I'm Lenard. When the work day ends, I'm still Lenard on the internet, and I'm still Lenard, the Alienware guy, right? So my team has taken kind of our personal channels, whether it's our Twitch channel, our YouTube channels, our names on Discord, our Twitter accounts, all our social media accounts. I get pinged day in and day out at all times, right? And I tell everybody, I do a daily AMA. You can ask me anything and everything, and I'm going to be 100% truthful and honest. Sometimes the answer is going to be, I can't answer that right now. But if there is an issue that you have, we will personally hand carry that into the company, whether it's on service and support, whether it goes to design, whether it goes to marketing or PR. We will hand carry those things, and then we'll provide an update, right? And we can't hide, because we do this every single day of our life. And the internet, everybody expects to be able to reach out to you and ping you. So, a 24-hour period doesn't go by where we're not updating our community.
Yeah, you cannot go radio silence anymore.
You can't.
There's no way.
Once you put your name out there and you've answered one person, you've got to give everybody that same level of respect.
And we actually, in certain respect, we owe it. You guys are the ones that are basically writing our check, so we owe that to you guys.
Well, in a couple of minutes, we'll be throwing it open for you guys to ask some questions of these guys. But I think a point to end on from our panelists would be potentially the most controversial one. It's that gaming products usually seem to have a higher premium when it comes to a price tag than a mainstream counterpart. Why is that?
And as cheeky as that stuff in them, and as weird because pound their notebook. But another reason is we have watts of thermals, copper fan. The average Ultrabook, and I ship 330 watt adapters. So that's the primary. The sturdier it is, the heavier it is,
Well, managed to ship as well.
I don't know how many you guys know.
We refer to that as the...
Like in the routers, we're, with WRT, we're using an enterprise grade chipsets in there. So, there's that added cost, a higher level layer of PCBs we have to use because we want to make sure we ensure that performance. It's just a matter of making a performance-based product. It costs more. It's your BOM cost, and some of those things,
And because you're spending more, you expect more, right? So we have anodized aluminum, which I know we were talking about earlier today. It's not just stamped, it's CNC'd because if at the Dell office I use a lot. I always say when you buy a Lexus, you expect leather seats. When you buy a Toyota, you expect to pay for that upgrade. So the finishes that you want on a notebook that costs more on a desktop, you're spending more, so you expect them to be better. And it just costs more money. So.
And the RGBs, of course.
And of course, the RGBs.
Oh, yeah.
Tens of dollars.
So now, if anyone has some questions, throw your arm up, and some lovely person in yellow will bring a microphone to
I think
you.
they've got this mic stands down there, so
Oh, just come on down
just
and,
come on
and
down.
use the mic. Line up, orderly fashion. Or just leave.
go ahead.
Have you ever considered external or modular power supply battery packs for laptops?
We have, actually. The primary issue with that for us is the discharge rate that you have to get through the battery pack. So if you think about a power drill, you get an incredibly, the battery will last maybe an hour, but you get really high torque out of it. And that's how fast it discharges. And there are rules about how many of those batteries you can put on a plane. And so I can't make a battery pack that discharges that fast and hit most federal requirements. We do have a power companion that'll charge your notebook when you're not plugged in, but it won't give you a plugged-in gaming experience. So it has to do with discharge.
That is, my current one requires its own sort of plugs because it's got around 700 watt power supply.
Which one does?
I've got a top of the line.
Oh, one of those-
SLI one right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. No, that's one that can do it, but I can't put that, I can't ship that in an airplane.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting how regulatory really kind of drives some of the things too.
Yeah.
I mean, globally would mean Wi-Fi.
every government has their own little rules, that's for sure.
And we have all of them.
We have very specific power supplies just for this country, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
So, go
Well,
government.
anything over a certain size is a bomb.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi. Talking about stuff that regulates and pushes into designs, back 7 years ago, when I was buying a desktop monitor, I could get a 24-inch 1920 by 1200 resolution monitor, and then within a couple of years, the whole mainstream was everything had to be HD, which actually downsizes the size of your monitor to 1920 by 1080. And to try to get a second monitor to match my screen is impossible now because even though it's a better monitor for gaming, because it gives you more vertical real estate, you can't get any more. And now we're seeing RGB, but at least RGB doesn't diminish your gaming experience. But how do you as a game designers deal with the mix between, this is the current social standard of right now, like 4K TV still has the same aspect ratio, but it doesn't give you the best gaming experience, well maybe it doesn't, I haven't run the tests with social groups, but it doesn't give you the best gaming experience on what actually would make a better gaming PC.
Mm-hmm. So from an LCD perspective, it's the one industry we have to deal with that is entirely driven by factory efficiency. So when they build and I don't know how it's done, but when they build a machine that makes LCDs, the width is determined by cost, and they cut those screens into how many they can get side by side. And so every single one of those transitions, the 4:3 to 1610, the 1610 to 16:9, now we see 3:4 and 4:3 and 2 something is coming. It's the most
32 by
frustrating
9.
part I have to deal with in the world. And it's completely driven by the engineering efficiency of the manufacturing process. Has nothing to do with what we want. Because we agree, we loved that 1610 aspect ratio, the 19:12. It was also 1680 by 1050, because you got some great Y, but the industry moved on us and went to some new aspect ratio, and we were all we were all changed to move into that new category.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Going through the mess that is Australian internet, I've probably gone through a dozen routers at this point. The first thing I ever look at is the QoS, making sure that I can throttle the rest of my family's internet so I get best internet. When you buy
We
a
believe in
router-
that in the U.S. too, by the way.
I'll tell you, this is my first trip to Oz, and this has been the running theme on
the
every
internet
single
here is awful.
You have
every
to
single
hear,
press
unfortunately.
meeting. These three letters have been the curse of death. I guess, you know.
Looking into buying new gaming routers, do you have to put any extra effort into QoS or how you can control your network better in a gaming router?
Well, what we've done with the WRT32X and using the technology from Killer Networking, we put what's called the Killer Prioritization Engine inside the router in a custom firmware build. BASIC was the vessel for what we call the KPE, or the Killer Prioritization Engine. The technology that is using is handling both the up and the down. And a lot of people don't realize is that the upload is a lot smaller than what everybody kind of knows as the number that's sold to you is the down, because the typical thing they're selling is streaming routers, things of that nature. So when it comes to gaming, it's that up is almost sometimes more important, because that is the input of the gamer to that game server. And having the Killer Networking technology that actually is managing both sides is key, because what I've heard, the most basic plan is like one up, which is pretty small, but the Killer Networking technology that we put in the WRT, it can handle those small gaming packets and not queue them and move them through as fast as possible, but then also look at the larger streaming packets and handle that bandwidth accordingly too. So we're not trying to do an either or, we're trying to do an all and manage that bandwidth. Whatever you're afforded, what you get at home, we can manage it both up and down and treat it at a packet level. And I think that's the key, instead of what traditional and other routers are doing, especially the ones that you can still call themselves gaming routers, is basically just straight out bandwidth carve-outs. That's kind of old school. Again, what we're doing is more, identifying the packets and then processing them accordingly so that we can kind of create some sort of harmony in the home.
Thank you.
Yeah, and their QoS software, by the way, allows you to control per device. So if someone had an angry sister and they wanted to cut their machines down so YouTube didn't run, you could do that.
Yep.
But you could also make all gaming traffic from any machine. And by the way, this killer technology isn't just in Alienware, but it's in most gaming machines now. And you'll be able to prioritize those machines that any traffic, even down to the app, is the first priority. So especially where you have poor internet, you can maintain the number of Netflix and YouTube interruptions into your game by using that software. So, and it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it's the only ones that are actually really doing it.
I play
real.
jokes on my wife. She might see
You are
this.
evil.
No, I don't. No, I don't. Crank caller.
Hey there. I'm just curious, as you guys are all part of the industry, if you're gamers yourself, and then are there any standout examples of games or series that you're like, these guys have done it right?
That's a weird question.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not weird. I get
So-
asked that all the time.
In the Alienware office, the vast majority are gamers. Some game less than others. I game a whole lot. Monday through Thursday, and then Friday through. So for me, League of Legends is back in the. I don't think it was. Is that they listened to the community, and the community at this point. But I think right. I think Riot did really well.
So actually, with X-Plane and iPad on home on a nice 4K, stick some flight paths, and then going out and hitting the iPad apps that we use on X-Plane, and avionics or backup avionics that I've used on X-Plane back and forth, and then what's actually really avionics in the airplane, and then he gets to play an hour of Overwatch.
Wife and Lenard's
I get to go home and say, I've got to play games. I've got to know.
Skyline, and because I can do it after and I can take a conference call with our engineering watch, but I couldn't PUBG, I played that, before I even get out.
My testing while he's playing away. So
Sucks the rest of your life. A little bit of almost every game. Somehow we've managed to get to the lab, and we'll play with cheap technology at the hardware. I don't know how it sort of captured their interest. Fairly senior. They did a pretty good job, however they did that.
You've heard our internet here is kind of sort of localized now. So is there anything that goes into?
Well, challenges with bandwidth. I did my kind of launch world tour here, 100 down, 10 up, which gets really pissed off. But you've got other parts and low bandwidth for partners, and actually really shines when you've got limited bandwidth. The dynamic nature of that technology is what's key in a single solution globally, because then it can do its job and how it needs to be done in each place of the world. So I think it is about that.
So if we're not alone in the world as far as bandwidth goes, how about reliability? Some of the old copper networks that we have in the ground here are particularly spotty.
I'm sorry, can you speak up more?
Sorry, how about, so bandwidth's one thing, how about reliability? Some of the old copper that we have in the ground here is particularly spotty and unreliable.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is probably more a matter of physics than what we can control out there. But, you know, if there is a certain baseline that you know that you can get, you know, we have the testing algorithms in there that can actually check that and know, okay, well, you're getting at least this, and then it can manage that. So I think that's kind of...
And the engine that's in there, it's going to kill your Netflix long before it kills your game.
Yeah.
So if you're down to 28.8 speeds, which, you know, could be enough for gaming, just sending, you know, game packets back and forth, it'll kill everything else first.
Yeah. It starts taking it from that lowest, you know,
Yep.
the big Windows update and Steam update thing, and starts chopping those down and starts suppressing that as it moves up the line. So again, that's that dynamic nature that really makes it work anywhere you're at.
Hi, just a question for the two Alienware blokes. When I think of Alienware, I think of generally more voluminous devices. At a time when you'll find most vendors are pushing more towards smaller and smaller devices, why is it that Alienware doesn't seem to have adopted that trend also?
I think that the perception of thick and thin, we don't have the thinnest notebook by any stretch of the imagination. If you look at notebooks that have 180 watt 1080s and K-Procs, there's only one thinner than mine. Everything else is actually thicker. What's changed is this MQ phenomenon, right? Now you can get a 100 watt 1080, and cooling a 180 watt versus 100 watt is very, very different. And I have complete faith in the MQ technology. I'm not, but I'd rather give a 1080 MP. So if you look at all the before the
So
MQ,
can I ask why it is that you would rather, given that the difference between the two is fairly reasonably negligible, I would say?
Yeah, no, you're right. Let's assume it's 5%, and that's it. Our customers don't take their notebooks with them very often. And if you're buying a 1080, you're right, it's only 5% more. But our customers want the extra 5% in some cases. And the one thing, and I was mentioning this earlier about battery life, so ASUS made a beautiful notebook. They absolutely did. They're Zephyrus, I think. And it's beautifully thin, and it runs phenomenally well. But you always have to have your power supply to be able to use it and game off of it. So you're always carrying everything else with you. So a thin notebook, like an Ultrabook, you want 8 hours of battery life, and you don't want to have your charger, you don't want to have all those extra cables. But on your gaming notebook, you're still going to carry all that stuff. And so we're still, you know, and we talk to the community about it all the time. If we were to make an MQ optimized notebook, it would be thinner than the notebooks we're making today. But we wouldn't want to sacrifice battery life or sacrifice, make you carry a 4-pound AC adapter for a 4-pound notebook.
So you guys just generally don't think it's worth it?
No. I don't want to say that. The notebooks we have, we built around their previous technology, and we're evaluating what to do around the Q technology. But it's great. I'm not trying to say that. We have a Dell notebook on the stand, a Dell gaming notebook that uses MQ. There are just so many trade-offs in going thin that if you're buying a performance product, how much of the performance are you willing to trade off? And if you're still carrying all that other stuff, wouldn't you rather have the rest of that performance?
Sure. So, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Hey, when you're going through and actually designing your laptops, your routers and stuff like that,
a lot of that stuff goes into, all of the RGB LEDs and everything like that. But what do you think about security, like going through and putting in like Windows Hello or fingerprint readers or anything like that? Because people do their online banking as much as they game on these laptops.
So I think all my notebooks now have Windows Hello cameras. One has the Tobii camera, and the others all have Windows Hello. I haven't seen adoption of Windows Hello really take off. There's a lot of new fingerprint technology coming that we'll be absolutely incorporating into. Hello is probably the first and best facial recognition we've had on the PC ever. I remember we used to have facial recognition 5-8 years ago, and it was awful. I mean, it was just awful. But Hello's done a great job in changing that. So we do incorporate it today. I think you'll see more fingerprint than camera in the future. It'll be interesting to see how the iPhone 10 changes people's perception of face versus thumb. But we're chasing both right now for the very reason you said, is that I have all my banking data on my notebook. So. And I don't use Windows Hello because the notebook I'm carrying doesn't have it. So.
And what about on like network and stuff, even more so when you've got multiple devices on a network with looking into firewalls, intrusion preventions and stuff like that? How much do you guys actually take that into account too, apart from just prioritizing gaming packets?
I mean, with internet and the security and all the things that are going on there, it's probably paramount, because it's even that thing that we need to do before we're handling those packets is making sure we're secure. So, SPI firewall on board. I mean, we're doing everything we can do, and it's sometimes a game of whack-a-mole, to chase it. But we're on top of it, and as Linksys is one of those technology leaders, we have a crack team that's, I said crack because that's out of mine, the latest one in there, which we're actually we fared quite well through that little episode. But it is a nonstop battle in chasing that, and we've got some intelligence people out there that are doing intelligence. Also I work closely with the open source community too, because they seem to always know what's going to happen, and they're usually the first ones to know what's going to happen. And so we just keep your ears wide open.